So in session one, we'll talk a little bit about the changing landscapes. One of the big changes is wireless. That is probably the major change that's happening in the home. And wireless covers not just Wi-Fi. Everybody says, oh yeah, it's Wi-Fi. You know, I have the latest version. I have 802. How many people have their 802.11n wireless in their home? What? G? AC? Couple? Steve, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have wireless. That's all I need to know. Just the wireless, the device that's in your home has changed. It's in the last 3 years. It's gone from a technology called G to N to AC, and now it's second generation AC. But AX is coming. Like, wait a second, I just got AC. So that's the big change. That's one of the big things that's happening. And a lot of it's being driven by Internet of Things and IP video consumption. So people want to use their smart devices, their smartphones, their tablets to consume video content, right? In a Pew Research study, about 18% of American households were hyper-connected. And I mentioned hyper-connected. This is 10 or more devices. Like I said, my daughter is hyper-connected. That's only because I'm in the industry. So she's got everything connected. She hangs out on Friday night with 10 friends. How's this possible? She's got them on all different devices, and they talk over Wi-Fi. They have these hangout rooms. You know, the kids hang out. But they're all there virtually. So it's very interesting. But that's the world they're growing up in. She'll be the next cable customer. So she's 13 now, but what about in 7 years? What about in 10 years? She's the next cable customer. Those are the people we have to pay attention to, right? What are the people that are 15, 16, 17 doing now with the connectivity? Because they're the ones I'm going to have to sell the package to in the future. So we can learn a lot from them. At least one streaming device, and this is an interesting fact, ATMs were the first IoT, Internet of Things device, back in 1974. Now today, ATMs, and an Internet of Things, this means anything connected by an IP address. Everything is connected by an IP address. Anybody wear the bracelets that tell you your body temperature and how many steps you walked? Anybody have those? Yeah, a couple folks have those? Yeah. So those are an example of Internet of Things. And people want to connect this to your network, along with anything else that you would provide them. So if you could provide them home security, the home security that we provide, you don't have to cut any wires in. It's all wireless. And stickers. They came into my house, they stuck these little stickers around, fired up a control panel, and I had home security. It's excellent. You don't have to drill any holes. I'm going to skip over that just for interest of time. What that video was, it was kind of, if we have some time later today, I'll play it, but pretty much where the Internet of Things are going. And one of the themes with Internet of Things is really getting into e-health. So one of those future services that folks are going to rely on cable for is e-health. Why do I have to go to a doctor when I can have FaceTime or a video screen in front of me, use my tablet, use my television to talk to my doctor? So if I'm doing a checkup, using all these Internet of Things devices, they can take my temperature. I can send devices to your home and monitor your health over an IP network provided by a cable operator, right? That's where we're going. So my wife has received a brand new device from her doctor, and they actually talk through it to her. So I'm like, who's that? I heard that. Who's in our house? Oh, it's a doctor. They're talking through me through this device they just gave me. Really? Yeah. And they know how long I use it, and if I don't use it, I have to pay for it. The insurance company won't pay for it anymore. Wow. So this is already happening in medical, where they're connecting to our network to monitor your health. It's already happening. And people are talking through it. And this is like 2 o'clock in the morning. Hey, by the way, you're not using the device correctly. Please adjust. Like, yeah. So I got the chance to go to the Consumer Electronics Show. If you're not familiar with that, this is the largest show for consumer electronics, probably maybe the second one compared to Asia, but the largest one for the United States. It is massive. You cannot complete the show in 5 days without your legs falling off. You would have to run. There's so much to see. So it fills the convention. It fills about 7 casinos. And then there's all these other locations for meetings and conferences. You can't do everything. But the theme is, I just wanted to kind of share, is video is moving to higher definition formats. Now, we've heard about probably 4K and Ultra HD for quite some time, but you're like, when is it coming? When is it coming? And it's coming through Amazon Prime. It's coming through Netflix. We need, as cable operators, come up with a framework. How are we going to support it in the network? Because it's coming. And what's clear, that's everywhere you went. So the cool thing was the TVs themselves are coming down in price. So I don't know what the equivalent would be, but I can tell you that you can buy a 4K television probably less than $250 US today. And that you would think, well, to get a 4K TV, I have to spend a few $1,000s. And that was the case when you first bought your HD television. So that shows us that the customers are getting technology into their homes, and they want to use it because the price of technology is cheap. It's less expensive than it ever was. And that puts pressure on us as operators. You walk into a customer's home, oh my God, there's a 4K TV. They have the latest smartphone. They have tablets. They have all this stuff. And then they come to you, can you connect me? Please connect me to all this stuff. I want to connect. So that puts pressure on us. Phone displays, 4K phone displays, made their way in there. And of course, the big one, the second one, smart home, IoT sensors everywhere. A sensor is probably a third of your fingernail. That's how small a sensor is. And they put sensors in everything. They had a toilet that had sensors in it. So I said, oh, you left the toilet seat up. You haven't cleaned this toilet in a while. All those types of things. But they have sensors that you can put into every device. Your shoes. You want sensors in your shoes to let you know how many hours of walking you did in a particular shoe? Sure. But you think of anywhere you could put a sensor, they have a sensor. Better wireless, better Wi-Fi. When I talk about wireless, I'm talking about ZigBee, Z-Wave, LoRa, Bluetooth. Man, I haven't heard all those. There's a lot of different wireless technologies. And why would we care about all these different wireless technologies? It's cheaper than Wi-Fi. Sensors for low-powered wireless are much cheaper than Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is not the answer. So what we've done is, in cable, we've used technologies like ZigBee and put ZigBee sensors throughout your house that talk to a gateway that gets converted to Wi-Fi. And now we could do low-cost home lifestyle, home security, turn your lights on, turn your thermostats on, those kind of things. And improved wireless is the big thing. The big negative thing for cable is you have the best technology hooking up a home, and you rely on the customer's Wi-Fi. The customer, we have no idea when they purchased their Wi-Fi last. They might not even know what they have in the home. Well, what kind of Wi-Fi do you have? I don't know. Is it G? I don't know. So we have taken over, and this was a big thing in Argentina when I was down there for the last 3 years, is the Wi-Fi, Steve. What are we going to do about the Wi-Fi? You have to own the Wi-Fi ecosystem in the home. If you want to provide reliable service, you need to do managed Wi-Fi. You provide the device. Work with a vendor and provide a device that you manage and provide that experience for the home. Because if you're going to rely on customers' equipment, then you're going to have problems. Because it's not our equipment. And then last thing I talked about, bigger cable pipes needed. And we all know that, more capacity. If you think about the scenario I always give is walking into these bulk stores. If you can buy a case of soda for $5 US, and you can buy a 2-liter bottle for $5 US. Which one you walking out with? The case. More is better. You give me a 1 gig for the same price as 2, I'll take the 2. Give me 10, I'll take 10. The more you give me, I'll take. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I know more is better. That is the way we are. So if you give me more for the same price, I'll take it. So that's the thing. So if you think about a competitor, the competitor says, well, I can give you 100 meg service. Well, I can give you 105 meg service. Oh, okay, 105. I'll give you 125. Okay, I'll take that too. So that's this human nature. More is better. There's a technology called Mocha, and I won't go into too much detail, but it's multimedia over coax. We've taken the coax in the home that's already there, and we can deliver video services. Still working? Okay, I thought I wore the battery out. What does this allow for us to do? We can share the DVR in the home. This is the first step that we did. So we had cable boxes throughout the house, maybe 2 or 3. And then I would record something in one TV, and then I would like to go watch it in another room, and it wasn't available. So how do you share that content? This is this protocol here called Mocha. We don't do DVRs anymore with no audio. Okay. Yeah, we don't do DVRs with hard drives in them anymore. It's all cloud-based. But this was the first step. And then Mocha also allows us to provide better Wi-Fi in the home, better connectivity. And I just mentioned there's actually standards work that's related to this, that you can run multiple technologies over the same coax in the home with no problem. Some other technologies that are making their way in the home. Another big thing I should have mentioned with CES was the Google-Amazon war. So Google Home or Alexa. Yeah, so who's going to win that war? I don't know. Amazon's doing quite a great job. You could buy a Echo Dot around Christmas time for $29 US, which was really, really inexpensive. So now I bought one for my parents. So my mother just asks Alexa everything. Well, what temperature is it out? I'm not going to go there, but I just want to know how cold is it out? And just everything, she just keeps asking Alexa. So she's going to wear that thing out. The cable operators are very innovative. They have created voice remote. So this particular slide here is showing a customer talking to the remote control, controlling content. You say, what? Yeah, exactly. So whether you do it through Alexa, because Alexa can control content through the Fire Stick, through the television. But what about the cable operator doing that? And what's nice about that remote, I can control what does my front camera look like outside. Please turn off my thermostat. Turn off the lights. I can control my home. So see the value for the cable operator. You can integrate with all your services, whether it's internet, video content. And you're like, well, how do I get there, Steve? This is such a new technology. I'll talk later about Reference Design Kit. It's an open source software that's available to all cable operators that you can actually customize and build your own set-top box. And I'll talk about where that's going. But the thing here is we have integrated over the top. The evolution, and when I'm talking about something that is several years away in Jamaica. But this is the roadmap. In 3-4 years, I want to have voice services through my remote. 3-4 years from now, I want to have over-the-top integrated into the cable box. So I can actually search for a movie. It will show me, is it provided in cable or is it provided in my over-the-top provider? We've integrated over-the-top into the cable box as like another channel. Netflix is just a channel. We have YouTube. YouTube is the #1 video consumption platform on the planet. We've integrated it. We can't fight it. The millennials, the younger generation, they look up everything on YouTube. Well, how do I make cookie dough? How do I plant a flower? And you name it. How do I change a carburetor? You've done it, right? You looked on YouTube. But what if you could do that through your remote? So and you can integrate that. And say, so that's where we're going. Pandora, any of these apps. So we're working very closely. Liberty Global in Europe, actually, when I was there, had a hackathon where they hired, they didn't really hire, but they brought in a group of programmers. So maybe about 20 or 25 participants. Throughout the day, they were in another level of the building creating an app for the cable box. Once you run this reference design kit, they write an app. By the end of the day, they had an app. That's how fast you can write apps in a day. You can do 1,000 cable updates to your video box in a week. So that's the technology. And then I talked about IoT and cloud DVR. Basically, cloud everything is the route that we're taking. Carrier grade Wi-Fi. This is 90% of the home is covered, and throughout 90% of the home is covered. That's carrier grade. Best effort Wi-Fi is sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast. This is actually, we have metrics around here on what is good quality. I could do 4 HD streams at one time. That's carrier grade. So that means 4 devices in the home, and I could do 40 megabits per second with a packet error rate of that value there. So we're shifting to better quality, whether it's Wi-Fi, access networks, reliability, around all our services. And this kind of shows you some of the technologies. I mentioned some of the Wi-Fi technologies that are here. You might have heard of 802.11ac. If you haven't, check your access point at home, because this is the latest and greatest. But there's work being done on 2 newer technologies. We're working to get to 30 gigabits per second over Wi-Fi. You might think, oh, we're crazy. But 5 years from now, you'll be like, yeah, I remember Steve talking about that. That's like no big deal. Everybody has 30 gigs. We lack knowledge. One of the things that Cordell mentioned, training. How do we learn about all these different technologies? And our installers, we thought they knew radio frequency when they were working on the cable plant. They were working for us. But we realized that RF knowledge didn't transfer into wireless. They didn't understand RF operation over wireless and Wi-Fi, over fiber optics, because it's still RF and terahertz. So that's a big challenge, and that's with any of these technologies. And not that we do a deep dive, but here's some of the technologies. Probably multi-user MIMO is the most important one here, is that we can have different conversations in the same home at different speeds, and it does not affect the quality. So if you have an older device, you can talk no problem with your older device, and the newer device can take advantage of your wireless, but they will not counteract each other, and you can have a quality experience with the newer device, and you can still enjoy older devices in the home. That's really what that means. And we have operational practices developed, part of our standards group, which is nice for operators. How do I improve Wi-Fi? What can I start doing? There are things that you can start doing. Training. Where do you place the Wi-Fi access point in the home? Those type of things. Basic things. We also do community Wi-Fi. We're actually taking Wi-Fi outside the home. This is actually a technician putting a Wi-Fi hotspot on the strand in the cable access network. Why would you want to do that? Wi-Fi to go. So if you want to take your Wi-Fi and you're waiting for a bus, or you're at the mall or anywhere at the park, and you would like to use your Wi-Fi, you already pay for it. Why can't I just use it in the park and not consume minutes on my cellular plan? And then the technology called Wi-Fi First allows me to make phone calls over Wi-Fi. And if the quality's not there, it falls back to cellular. So we've launched millions of hotspots, millions. And we talked to the folks in Argentina about 4 years ago. Now they're getting into the thousands of hotspots in Buenos Aires because they feel that this is a great value that you could take your wireless to go. And via smaller operator in the U.S. Virgin Islands, they're doing the same thing. They're like, well, we're going to start putting hotspots up too. So in different highly dense areas of our island, we can provide wireless. And it does not affect your quality. Your actual device in the home provides Wi-Fi connectivity as well. So as you're walking down the street, you can connect to people's houses. This is an example of the low-powered wireless protocols. A lot of acronyms there, but this is something you need to pay attention to. People want to use Bluetooth. They want to connect. These are just some of the protocols that connect. Just checking my time here to make sure I'm okay. Yep, I better speed up so we can get to our chat. This is the Internet of Things. This is an example of my home security system. This is an app provided by my cable operator. And I can do all different kinds of things. I control lights and look at cameras and all that good stuff. And I can do it all from here, as long as I have Wi-Fi. IP video, IP streaming. We've built these networks called content delivery networks that provide streaming. Where we are right now is that we've taken the video network and the data network and converged it in our head ends. So that means right now they're separate. You do video, you have a video network, you have your internet network, two separate entities. We brought them together. So that's something to think about. How do we do that in the next 3 to 5 years? Bring these together, because that's going to help you with your IP video streaming. So we'll stop there so I don't take up all your time. And you want to do the, we'll start let's start the discussion. So what kind of questions out of those technologies I presented? And this is really around the home network, maybe the MDU, what we call the multiple dwelling unit, the condominiums or small businesses or apartments. What are some of the questions that you may have on some of these technologies?
I'm just interested if you could elaborate on what you were saying about voice-activated services as an opportunity for cable operators.
When it comes to like the remote in the home? Yeah. So one of the things that we realized is folks love talking to like Siri in your phone, Alexa, all these devices, and it's just like over the top. If you think about over the top, how it's disrupted our networks, that folks start watching more over the top content. It's the same thing is for voice. If we don't get into that market, people will start using more Alexa, Google Home, Siri. Cable said, well, we need to make sure that we're into this market as well. And we thought about it, and we said, well, the voice, having a voice remote. And it is very, very accurate, but having a voice remote where you can connect to all your devices in your home, that's a winner. That's a differentiator. When you can talk to your televisions, when you can talk to your lights, your security system, when you can utilize that in your home, and then further integrate that with your favorite over-the-top apps, that's the opportunity for operators, because then that's another differentiator. It's like, well, my operator has a voice remote. And so what Comcast is one of the first ones that launched this, they were losing video subs, just like all of us. We were all losing, over the top, we're done. And some operators just kind of said, I don't know what to do. And with this reference design kit that I mentioned, you're able to create products on top of your set-top box. That was the biggest challenge for us, is taking a set-top box from a vendor, and then we just have to use it the way the vendor designed it. So whether the way the guide was and all that. What we did is we have a layer of software on there, and you can create your own apps. And one of those was this voice app. And then you can add apps to that. So one of the trends, which I didn't really highlight there, is that the cable operators are going to be hiring thousands and thousands of programmers. Why programmers? Because apps is the future. Cable apps that no one else has. That's where the technology is going. So if you have voice remote and you're able to talk to all different apps, whether that's one that controls your home, one that does e-health, one that controls your devices, that's where we're kind of headed. Can I answer that okay? Yes.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank the Broadcasting Commission for inviting me here today. And as I listen, I'm going to put on two hats. One hat is my role as a lecturer at the University of the West Indies. The other hat is as a householder with a cable system in place with a lot of headaches. So let me put on the academic hat first. That listening here, and I also own a multimedia television production company, and the challenge of training. And so this is a great step that Cordell Broadcasting Commission has allowed us to get some sample, a little taste of what is out there and what is coming and the business opportunities for the cable operators. The training, the drilling down, the ensuring that these cable operators who are here, I'm assuming that they're cable technicians or cable operators. I'm not sure of the profile of those who are here. But that we take this beyond just us sitting here and listening to the actual training, the on-the-job training, that they understand how to satisfy my householder role now, so that I haven't got a big box at my front door, which is what I have now from the cable technician, with a whole lot of little wires all over the place. And right now having no Wi-Fi at home because I've given up with Flow, even though I'm paying them every month, I pay them for my Wi-Fi. But I don't think the technicians really understand what to do. I've had enough of them come to my house and just kind of, oh, well, one, the very good one who came, held me and it worked for about a year, and then it went again. Yeah. So how do we move beyond all of the frustrations for the householder?
Yeah, and I could share a little bit about what the SCT has done with the Caribbean. So Innovative, which is now VIA, brought the SCTE in, and at the time they were struggling just because of the infrastructure that they were struggling with the infrastructure, so they reinvested in their infrastructure. The challenge is they found themselves with a new network, but how do I operate that network? So they brought us in there, and I had the privilege of going down there and working with them, but there was a cost to it. They had to sell it. Like, we're going to bring the SCT in, and we're going to deliver training on the new technology. And I had people in the class 25 years in cable. Their eyes were open because they were like, wow, I haven't had training in a while. I've been working on the network, but all this that's happening is brand new. So one of the things you have to realize is that technology has changed. You have to keep reinvesting into the skills of your workforce. That will improve retention. Retention's a challenge for us, right? Because if somebody comes in, they're working for the cable operator, they get frustrated because they can't do the job. And there's certain metrics that we hold technicians to that they have to achieve. And if they don't achieve those, they get written up and they're in the realm of the HR folks. So with what the SCTE tries to do as a nonprofit, we've been working with contractors worldwide, smaller operators worldwide, to standardize the training. We have training for installers. And the training that we have installers is not something I go off and develop. When I say I develop content, I have 200 people I work with that work on that content. So it's not Steve just runs in the back room and he develops it. And we have working groups with cable operators that we all come together and we standardize the training. So if you're in Canada, you have different ways of delivering a network. than if you're in Europe, South America, Caribbean, and US. We develop that training to make sure it's designed for that operator. So one of the things is getting people trained and then maintaining that training through certification. So we have a certification for installers that's international. And I was sharing earlier, we've converted some of our content to Spanish and German, and we're expanding that activity. But you have to have a standard training platform. And we feel that the SETE, we're vendor neutral. We are cable operator neutral. And our platform, we feel that we have data to show how techs improve through our progression. So we have 11 different certifications, everything from installer to engineer, and it's all standardized. So some of the challenges around that is cost, right? Bring in SET and do a boot camp, we're a heck of a lot cheaper than bring in like a Cisco or a Juniper or a Sienna here, right? Or anywhere, because we're a nonprofit. But that's not the only way. You can do it online. When you take a class through us, you get 3 years of access. And you say, well, that's great, because the 3 years of access includes all the updates my team does. We did thousands of updates to the platform last year. It's constantly changing. I can literally log into any class right now and add any piece of content and hit publish, and every learner gets that update. So our platform's that fast. We had to do that. People were buying printed manuals. They were out of date. As soon as I printed them and shipped them, they're out of date. Why? It's constantly changing. So we tried to come up with some areas and frameworks that will allow people to get training, but not spend hundreds of dollars for a course and it's done in 12 weeks. You have 3 years of access. And this way, when you're with the customer, you could use your smartphone and access that training at any time. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we have available there. And we started last year enterprise licenses. So you say, well, individually, it's too much money for me to train folks. What we can do is an enterprise license for your entire operation, bringing the costs way down for training. And we do that with a lot of cable operators. So there's Charter is one huge operator. They just bought Time Warner and Bright House in the United States. Very similar to like Liberty Global. They just bought Cable and Wireless. Who own operations VTR in South America and Europe. There are about 14 or 15 operators. The thing about Charter, the thing about Liberty Global, they're all pretty much owned by one gentleman, John Malone. And Charter came to us, and Liberty Global came to us and said, how do we fix the same issues? And we have tens of thousands of folks that go through training, standardized training. And we can change it and adjust it as needed. So that's one thing, one of the ways we're trying to address it, right? The other issue or other way to do this is SET. You can join the SET very inexpensively. You say, well, the training. Our membership is $85 per year. But through that, you could watch 300 webinars on content. You want to learn about fiber deep. You want to learn about RF fundamentals. You want to learn about fiber fundamentals. Wi-Fi 101, we have all those, part of a membership, and it's part of a community. So it's another way that's very inexpensive for you to provide training, and we have supervisors use those webinars in their tech meetings. They'll bring the techs in and say, hey, look, we're going to watch 15 minutes of this webinar that SET has, because there's some very important key points when it comes to doing video installs, or when it comes to connectorizing a cable. So those are some of the ways that we're trying to address, and we're always open to new ideas, anything that we can do to support you better. Yes?
Good morning.
Good morning.
In regards to the technology that the devices use, you mentioned that they're cheaper than Wi-Fi, but they connect back to a Wi-Fi network. You said one was, what was it, ZigBee?
ZigBee.
ZigBee.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the chip that actually provides that radio, the radio is that you can send and receive. If you think about a home and you want to connect 14 devices, you would need 14 Wi-Fi chips in that home. Instead, we can use low-powered Wi-Fi or low-powered wireless chips, much less expensive in those 14 devices, and then just have the one Wi-Fi radio in that gateway. So that's how we're saving cost, and we're leveraging protocols that already exist. ZigBee is a very popular protocol, but also there's Bluetooth, right? Bluetooth, I think it's 5.2 just came out. So that you're like, wow, Bluetooth, and it keeps changing. So there are many protocols, but that's how we're able to get into the market. And then the other thing is, how do you get in and do home security, home lifestyle? There's no wires. We're not drilling into the customer's home, because that's a challenge, right? You don't want to go into a customer's home and then you're drilling through their walls and their moldings and doors and windows. We can put all these sensors on without just stickers and the sensors without disrupting the customer's home. So that's how we're able to do what we're doing. Yeah.
As a follow-up to that question, where is the interconnecting point between the low-powered wireless and the actual Wi-Fi?
Yeah, so we have a small tablet or a console that we provide the customer. That's the big cost. So when I say big cost, it's the most expensive piece, but it's a small control panel that the customer uses, and they can turn off all their equipment, and they can control their whole home from this control panel. But that's the device that provides that switchover. Also provides cellular backup. So that means all of a sudden the Wi-Fi goes out, I lose my low-powered connections because of battery failure or something like that. Then this is the device, and that has backup in it. The other thing about the low-powered devices, those sensors use batteries, watch batteries that last for 2 to 3 years. So you don't, if you lose power in the home, you still have your security system, and then you still have that cellular connection. So.
Okay, another follow-up to the same question is that currently in Jamaica, our homes are built out of solid concrete,
Yes.
so the Wi-Fi penetration inside of even a large house is really challenging. Could you reflect a little bit on these low-power devices with this different protocol, this different technology? How well does it work with these challenges in terms of you're in one room and can't get into the other room?
Yep, and that's an excellent question as well, because the low-power protocols, so you think about Wi-Fi in the concrete homes, that's a great point, because when you go to the latest and greatest Wi-Fi, which is now 5 gigahertz, the Wi-Fi Alliance has announced 6 gigahertz. The higher in frequency you go, the smaller your coverage. And that's a challenge. So as you deploy new technologies, if you didn't know that, you're like, here, I give you the greatest, latest and greatest. And you're like, well, this is worse. Because I'm in a concrete home, and now the coverage got worse. The 2.4 gigahertz that I had before was much better. So the low-power protocols actually you can run the low-power protocols less than 800 megahertz. You could run them at lower frequencies. So they'll be improved over 2.4. That's one way, right? The second way is using Wi-Fi mesh. So the ability to have multiple Wi-Fi devices in the home. Nobody wanted to do that. But what we found, in order to provide that reliable carrier-grade experience, we have to put more than one device in the home. And think about a small business. No problem. I'll take multiple devices. But if you explain that to the customer, if you want carrier-grade Wi-Fi, you need at least 2 devices in a home, maybe even 3. You have to have the tools, that's the other thing I was mentioning, the tools to characterize the network. So when that technician goes in and puts that access point in, there are vendors that have these little hockey pucks. They throw them around the house. They triangulate the Wi-Fi signal in the home and give you a grade on that signal. So before you leave the house, you know what that network's going to do. But without that, there's no way to tell. You just hope and pray, right? You just say, well, I'll put it here. I hope it works. So we really need to have tools, visibility, and think about, a second device in the home, and maybe long-term how do I get to managed Wi-Fi, where I actually manage your experience? So when you call in to the cable operator, they already know, did you move your access point? Well, yeah, I put it in my closet. It was in the way. They do, right? As soon as you walk out of the home, the installer puts it in the perfect spot. The customer, oh, no, it's not staying here. Put that in the closet. Get it out of here. So there are vendors working with more aesthetically pleasing Wi-Fi access points as well that you wouldn't mind having in your living room. So those are all different areas that we could use to address that. But the first step, I think, is how do we improve the Wi-Fi network? I think education is part of that. I also think about what can we do, little steps that we could do today to improve that Wi-Fi experience. It might be just getting some tools in the tech's hands so they know what that Wi-Fi looks like in the home.
Hi. I'd be interested to hear your views on relevance and timing on everything you've spoken about as regards to an economy and a society as structured as Jamaica is. We have 880,000 households. Only about 200,000, and that's being generous, are connected with broadband. We have a per capita of 5,000 US a year versus 60,000 US a year in the US. You're coming from Latin America as well, so you have that reference point. So what is the relevance of everything you've spoken about in terms of how quickly this evolution might take place, given those fairly dramatic differences?
Yeah, and what I've kind of seen from working with, I've worked with some other operators in the Caribbean, like Digicel, and some other smaller operators. I think what I kind of say is almost like a 3-year difference. Where we are today is making those small steps, improving what we have. I think the first step is, like I said, educating folks on what do we have today in the home, and then taking steps to improve the equipment we're putting out in the network today, right? Like, for instance, if I'm putting out an access point that's a single antenna, that you would think about putting an access point out that has multiple antennas. We're not saying put out an access point that has 8 antennas, because it's too costly, right? But just taking little incremental steps in the movement of that technology. I'm not telling you to go out and put 802.11ac second wave in everybody's home because of the cost, right? But what I would expect that all customers are using at least 802.11n or better. And then what's that? Okay, but next year we launch AC, and then just take those incremental steps. Everything's an incremental step, because otherwise it's too costly, right? So that's kind of how I've seen the other operators, even when it comes to DOCSIS in their network. Working closely with Via and Digicel and I'm trying to think of the One Communication and some others. There's no problem still using DOCSIS 2.0. But what's that step look like? How do you get to DOCSIS 3.0? And you might get to a new technology and not be able to implement all those pieces. That's okay. But if I get to DOCSIS 3.0, I might leverage channel bonding. I might not be able to do the IPv6 portion yet. I might not be able to do the upstream portion. But if you take small incremental steps in your approach, you can get there with any of these technologies. So today, even if you look at analog, okay, anybody still have analog in their network? I'm not raising my hand. What are you, crazy? But if you have analog in your network, how do you move to standard definition? Because we know that if I take one analog channel out, then I can move in 10 standard definition channels in its place. But if you're already there, how do you do HD? Because I know that if I take one analog out, I can do 2 HDs. But how many of us are thinking about MPEG-2 reclamation? Reclaiming all the MPEG-2 and replacing it with MPEG-4. That's the next step, because then that's going to give you more bandwidth. But then you think, all right, well, what's the next step after that, Steve? It's MPEG HEVC, high efficiency video coding, which is for Ultra HD and 4K. But I think that's the approach that we take, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, I mean, I think, given my experience, I'm more of a technologist. I would say a 3 to 5 year, depending on the technology that we're looking at, right? Because if you think about where we are today with our networks, the real large operators are deploying DOCSIS 3.1. Okay, this is the latest and greatest version of a protocol that allows us to do the greatest high-speed data. But there's other operators that are still running, like I said, DOCSIS 2.0. So I think that it's 3 to 5 years, depending on the operator and depending on the technology. And then the other point is you have to pick in your network where you're going to target. Are you going to target the home Wi-Fi? Are you going to target the video? Are you going to target high speed? You're going to target all of them at once? You might want to address reliability as number one. How do I improve reliability and customer service? We always found that customer service for us, when I was at Comcast, was number one. And I'll tell you, here we are 17 years later, we're still working on customer service. Yeah. Okay? We're going to take a break. 5 minutes. Okay. Yep. And I just wanted to reiterate that, as I said earlier, any questions you have along the way, jot them down. So we're talking about session 2 and you want to continue talking about session 1, not a problem. That's what I'm here for. Okay? So as you guys get settled back in, there was some good dialogue on the break. And it seems like training is very, very important to this group. So I wanted to kind of share a little bit more about that because there's several people that came up to me. So one of the things that we do, we actually do on-site training. Our organization does on-site training. And one of the ways we do that, we do a hybrid model, meaning that you can do online. So if you did a installer training, you would get that online access to that class for 3 years with it. So you get that class, and then they would have all those abilities to use that training, and as it updates throughout the years, they would get all those updates, and they can use it through we have an app that they can use and access content, right? And then we offer hybrid programs, meaning I can't bring for 5 days, I can't bring everybody in and train them. So they could do a little bit online, then they can come in, say Tuesday of that week, do an all-day practical training. Wednesday, go back into the field. Maybe a different group comes in Thursday, does a practical. But to be honest with you, to understand everything when it comes to installation, it's a full 5 days of practical. So what we would have to do is work with you to define what are those most important competencies that I need in my business. To define that. So you might say, all right, we're going to do some online. We're going to bring them in for 2 days. These are the things that we're going to work on. And then after the training's done, they have access to online and they can finish the program. And what I found in training different folks is it takes some time for them to comprehend all the material. So we offer a certification to get certified. So it's not a certificate. There's a lot of confusion in the industry. A certificate means you completed a course. Right, you get a certificate. The certification is a diploma. Is that you've finished the exam. So we can work with you to help your workforce achieve certification. And the other piece that we found working with operators is you need to have stake in the game too. We can't just come in and train and then walk away. We come in and train, and then you have to reinforce that training every day. So your supervisors got to be part of the training. The managers need to be aware of the training. And then we got to talk about what are those metrics that you manage your installers to. That's the only way we're going to get to quality and reliability, is that we all have to work together. But a lot of people think that it's a magic bullet. We'll bring SCTE in. We'll do the training. We're good. We had them trained. They're good. That doesn't work like that. So there has to be QC. in the field, but all that we need to work out and make sure we define properly and put together a plan on how do we improve the installer or whatever individual in your workforce. The other thing about training, if you have partnerships and you want to work together as a group and bring in a group of folks to do training, that's possible too. What I find sometimes smaller operators, like, well, you know, Steve, the cost to bring SCTE down is a little bit more than what I have budgeted for. But we've actually combined cable operators. We'll take 12 from this cable operator, 6 from this cable operator, and 12 from that cable operator, and then form a class. But that's all dependent on what your relationships are. You might say, Steve, that does not work here. What are you, crazy? But just wanted to let you know that exists. The other topic that came up is about content, and I failed to mention one of the differentiators is on-demand content too. Right, so it's obviously having the video platform, but really that on-demand content library. People are going to come to you because you have a library of content. So the content is not just important, what you broadcast in your linear broadcast or what you put in over the top, but it's also important what your library has. So we're very conscientious on how we build out that on-demand library, because we're trending towards everything on demand. If you don't see it, go talk to somebody who's about 13 to 16 years old. Everything is on demand. So if you got the football game, soccer game, cricket game, whatever it is, on demand, I'll watch it there because I could just pull it up anytime I want. So think about how do you build out that on-demand platform, because that's going to drive people to come to you, because then they can get their content whenever they want. And that's one of the nicest things when you're ready to watch a show. My daughter and I, we have these shows that we watch. And one show is called The Gifted, about these kids that have these abilities, like superhero abilities. But we could just talk to the remote, The Gifted, and we can watch whenever we want. We don't have to go to a particular channel. That's something we need to kind of think about in our evolution. How do we create more on-demand content? Okay. Any quick questions before I continue? Yes. Got Mike coming behind you.
Is what I call revenue assurance. Revenue assurance. Earlier you said that you're very technical and not too much on the business side, but this is a technical aspect of revenue assurance. Wi-Fi in the home is going to be the next big thing. It is the
big thing, yeah.
It is the big thing, right. Our market is fairly small. So as a cable operator, we want every home to be a customer. We don't want one home to be a customer and 10 homes using it. And the Wi-Fi aspect is of such that the wave propagate beyond my house. Mm-hmm. And we are fairly smart people. We'd like to pay one cable bill and 20 of us share that bill.
Right.
So the question is, what can we do as a cable operator to mitigate your next door neighbor actually riding on your Wi-Fi?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is managed Wi-Fi, where you actually manage the actual platform that's being put in the home. With that, you can control the radio. So you can control how much power is being put out of that access point, right? So that's one thought. And then, you need some type of credentials to utilize the service. So that's, getting into the security aspect. So it's going to be almost impossible to stop somebody from putting their own access point onto any device and then radiating wireless. That's almost impossible to do. You can look at doing data caps. A lot of the operators have a certain amount of content that you can put over the internet service per month. And after that, there's maybe a fee. So you can maybe implement data caps on those areas where you see that happening. and say, look, for this month you're allowed to do 2 gigabits per second. So that's one area, because we had the same issue in New York City. Everything's very close together, a lot of apartments, but we need it for 2 reasons. We need to regulate that RF because, one, if it's just propagating freely and beyond the customer's home, you're actually interfering with other services. So it leads to a less reliable product. And then it also leads to what you've described, other people utilizing the product. So you need to manage the radios in those devices. And the way we can come to the customer, say that you want more reliable service, you can use our managed Wi-Fi product. And then we can control the radios, we can provide the optimal signal in the home. Especially 2.4, because it propagates pretty far, twice as far as 5 gigahertz. So that could be some of the options that are available. But I don't think there's anything to ever prevent somebody from taking their own access point, plugging it in, and offering wireless. That's where you control with the data caps or the credentialing. Okay, good question. Yep. So I want to show you. Another question?
Yes. In regards to the reference design kit, could you elaborate on that and what it entails?
That is actually coming up in my next session. So we will talk about reference design kit, because I think that's something that you can leverage, especially with the next generation video and internet. So I will talk about that. Yep. Okay. So I just wanted to show you what the future could look like on your cable network. So if you're looking at this video, think about what my cable network could look like in 5 years. And this is actually something that larger operators who have larger budgets are trying to push for today, right? But as a smaller operator, again, incremental steps. I want to give you something that you can see maybe happening in 5 years in your network. But if you really think about it, is actually providing that home infrastructure to allow something like this to operate. But this is where we're headed, and it's pretty kind of scary in a way, but very interesting.
Come on, Cookie. I don't know how you're supposed to feel at 86, but I don't think I feel like I'm 86.
Surprise!
People make my world go round. I fear isolation and being cut off. If I am alone somewhere and I had no one to talk to, no one to share anything with, I bet you I would just dry up and blow away. I call this my smart house. We got sensors in all the rooms. I swallow them. I wear them. Doc knows what's going on with me. I don't have to go to the clinic anymore. I call him up. He's not back in the horse and buggy days.
Looks like you had a pretty active week, huh?
I'm feeling it too. Hey guys, how do you like your ride? Knowing I got eyes on me gives me the confidence to keep me being who I am, doing what I want to do. Frees me up. Takes the worry away. I don't have to worry about Paige, my daughter. Hey kiddo, what's up?
I'm just checking in.
Because I know she's not worried about me.
No,
She's always busy, work and kids. But she can see exactly how I'm doing.
I love you, Dad.
That she knows how I feel before I do. Cookie has become my buddy.
Time for your pill, Jim.
My wingman. Hey, Cookie, what time is that car going to be here?
2 minutes. It's cold out. Might want to bring a coat.
It's like he has a brain. Now, what are you doing, Cookie?
It's a quick...
I have come to rely on him. I know I can trust him, and he's got my back. I lost Ellen, my wife, 10 years ago. So many good times, so many memories. Losing her was really tough. If we had had for her then what we have for me now, she would have been in a much better place. I miss her so much. Here, not too long ago, I was experiencing those dizzy spells. The doctor had provided a scan for me at home, so I didn't have to go out to the clinic or anything.
They have those scans for that patient. Take a look.
And that scan revealed that I had an aneurysm. I saw this specialist, a surgeon, and she explained to me we wouldn't have a messy operation. They inject these nanobots, they go into your system.
Basically, we're going to send in an army of nanobots of the aneurysm.
And they find where the aneurysm is and
fixing it.
They seal it off. I get a kick out of thinking that I have a whole bunch of nanobots swimming around up here in my brain, doing what they're supposed to do. I wasn't in a hospital. I went back home.
Oh dear.
I went back home where I want to be, where I belong. The help that I have allows me to stay here in my home. Who is that? Do you remember? The guy in the back.
Who is that?
Have my friends here,
That's Pete.
my family, and I don't want to give that up. I don't want to be in a nursing home. The quickest way to lose your independence is to go where you don't have any independence. That's the truth.
This is just kind of give you a sense of where we would like to go with IoT. And you say, well, you know, where do we want our cable networks to be in 5 years? But just like to your point, Wi-Fi is a part of that. We saw that. That robot, you think, well, you know, it's a robot. They were at CES running around. You could actually, I walked up to the robot and actually read my name card. Hello, Steve, how are you? I mean, they have this technology. Now you might say, well, you know, it's not here. No, it's not in the home yet. But we already see it making its way with with Alexa and Siri into the home, where you can actually do more and more with these devices. And I think that's the kind of the point. Like, how do we get there? How do we make our networks, you know, operate this way? Especially for e-health, folks are going to want to use your cable networks to connect to their doctors, whether those doctors are on this island or another location. You know, how do I leverage that network? And we don't want to say, well, we can't do your scan today because your internet's out. Sorry, we can't take your stats today because the internet's too slow. So those are kind of things, where do we want to be in 5 years? It kind of gives us an idea of what's possible, right? And that's kind of how we're trying to work to that future. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you. Yes? Yeah, I could give you a link. I'll share a link with Cordell on that video if you want to watch it.
Yeah, the only thing for me that was missing is the hologram of his wife. Why didn't they not put a hologram of his wife in there?
Why did he put it in there? Oh, wait, he did have a hologram. Remember he put
of his wife, the person he misses a lot.
It was in there.
It
He
was
had
there?
the glasses on. That was her in the garden. Yeah. Oh, too young. Oh, yes. Yeah, in the future you. So I mentioned the Cisco Visual Network Index, and I'll send that link as well. But through that, in 2020, 2 years from now, Cisco says there'll be 26 billion devices connected. 26 billion devices. So at that time, so we're talking at least 3 per person on the planet. So there's no question there's going to be more and more connected devices. We got a question back here? Or over here?
Yes, one of the greatest concerns that a lot of people have has to do with security of information. What happens in that, or what's the plan in that future for the security of information from the cable companies or whoever? Because so much of your personal information will now be accessible.
Yes, and that's an important point, and I get that question a lot from my wife. Is this secure? So there are protocols at each level of security. So one of the things that we do well is we do security well. Anybody using a DOCSIS signal knows that we use baseline privacy interface to actually encrypt the transmission from the head end to the customer. That's built into DOCSIS. It works so well when we deployed the new versions of IP version 6, we did not deploy IP security. We didn't have to do that at the IP level because we had it at the DOCSIS level. We could turn that on as well. And then when you're accessing content, medical content or banking content, through HTTP, the protocol itself, you'll notice there's HTTPS, which is Secure Sockets Layer. That is another level of security. But each one of these elements, Wi-Fi in your home, you know that you're probably using WPA, Wired Privacy, I forgot an acronym. WPA. I think it's Wired Privacy Access, version 2. And then there's 2 protocols underneath that, and one of them is antiquated. It's called TKIP, Temporal Key Integrity Protocol. But those are things you wouldn't know because you're like, well, I don't know. I just put Wi-Fi in. Oh, we've been putting Wi-Fi WEP in, WEP 64, WEP 128. So not understanding these technologies, you might be putting these technologies in an unsecure way. So it's an excellent question. So whether it's wireless, wired, there's security options available. And then also your infrastructure from cybersecurity. There's hackers constantly want to attack your infrastructure. So you have to, from a cybersecurity standpoint, understand how do you protect your infrastructure. Because even though it's protected in the home, it's protected in the access network, how is it protected in the infrastructure? So there's several areas that we have to look at in the network. So that's a very, very important point. We had a question over here?
Yeah, going back to the video that we just saw, I mean, having the Wi-Fi all over the place, all the chips in the lamps, ceilings, sensors, everything. In the near future, what is the cost looking like to implement so much things in one household? I mean, what are we looking at for these small cable companies?
So one of the things that I found, so I'll share Comcast because I'm a Comcast customer. So Comcast provides a service. But what I was able to do, what the strength of this is, because Comcast had home security for 3 years. I didn't sign up. I didn't sign up at all. Because I wanted the ability to buy my own products. And all of a sudden, boom, you're able to support other people's products. So then the customer is able to go out and buy their own light bulbs. You provide the fundamental pieces, and then you can go out and buy a Nest thermostat or any other thermostat that you want and put it on your network. I can show you on the app, it's actually 2 clicks. You hook it up, and 2 clicks, it's in. So you say that, well, how much is this technology? I can buy 4 light bulbs off of Amazon for maybe $50 US. And I can have 4 different lamps I can control. So the sensors for a light bulb might be $12, $15 for a light bulb. So you figure, well, I might just use a light bulb on my porch. I'll buy 1 for now. Next year I might buy another. Depending on the thermostat you buy, it could be anywhere from $50 US to $200 US. So it depends. But the nice thing about this, as you think about this, is think about it as an open platform where you can allow other vendors to participate in your home security, home lifestyle products. So you're not locked into only providing your products. You can provide the console, you can provide the sensors, but think about, let the customer buy those other things so you don't have to provide everything. So that's how you keep costs down and you provide the fundamental components.